50 years ago this Monday, a stork made a special delivery to Sharp Hospital right here in San Diego. That special delivery? This guy. So that makes me a San Diego native. Any other San Diego natives out there? Or how about from the San Diego chapter? Get to know those people, for we are the chosen ones. So also native to build business are the MAX talks. They've been going on for 4 years now, consistently. And if you're not familiar with the acronym, it stands for Market, Act, and Exchange. And what it does is showcase, in short form, presentations designed to get us thinking about standing out and going beyond the norm. This morning, we've got 3 incredible presenters that are going to take the stage. And let me tell you, you are in for a real treat. First up is a longtime SMPS member, been involved for 20 years, and he navigated a very carefully planned career until facing a personal crisis that turned his life upside down. Suddenly, he found himself in a world where strategy, order, planning, they just didn't make sense. Instead, he had to rely on instinct and intuition. So trusting his gut, he took a risk, and he set his life on this trajectory filled with new insights, opportunities, and as you'll hear, immense personal growth. In his presentation titled Off Track, On Purpose, we're going to hear why you all should dig deep and embrace the uncomfortable, live in the present moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our first MAX speaker, Doug Parker.
On September 26th of 2017, my life went off track. My best friend Diane was in Houston. She'd flown in from LA. We had some friends over for dinner, and during that dinner, I received a text message from my boss asking me to deal with an issue at work at our next executive committee meeting. He thought my proactive approach would be well received by the team members. The text wasn't anything out of the ordinary. In fact, we communicated that way all the time. But, you know, to be honest, I couldn't even tell you what the text was about. It wasn't important, but my reaction was. You know when you have that slow motion, everything stops kind of moment? That's what happened to me. It hit me like a 2x4 to the forehead, which is something happens to us down in Texas. I didn't care about the problems we were having at work. I didn't care about the executive committee. I didn't care what my team members thought. But then I was like, wait a minute. I care. Doug Parker cares passionately. It's what I do. My crazy type A personality cares. Over the last 8.5 years, I had given blood, sweat, tears, some flesh, and probably have liver damage from all the wine I drank, caring about my firm. But you know, it's what I do. I care. My type A self just cares. But when I read that message, something in me snapped. It was the moment I went off track. I just didn't care at all. And in that moment, I realized it was time for me to quit my job. I knew in my gut that my firm deserved more than me not caring. My boss and dear friend deserved more than me not caring. But most importantly, I deserved more than me not caring. In just a 3-second flash, all of this was clear. I looked at Diane, my best friend, and said, I'm resigning tomorrow. And she said, with kind of an all-knowing smirk of a smile, which she does, it's about time. We've been talking about this for months, and she knew I was struggling. And then she said, you know, I get it. It's time for you to take care of yourself. Diane, my best friend of 35 years, gave me the validation I needed. But more importantly, she gave me permission to make this decision. So I made it, and I never looked back. See, several years before that dinner, I found myself in a personal crisis that literally turned my world upside down. My mom began to be forgetful and misplace things. I chalked it up to, you know, aging, just typical aging. But as she became more forgetful and started misplacing things, I knew it was more. After countless tests, we got a dementia diagnosis. And to complicate things, my mom's also a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic living on an insulin pump. So there I was, an only child, single, with a full-time demanding job in Houston, and my widowed mother living an hour and a half away. To say her memory problems were causing life-threatening issues is an understatement. You know, when she couldn't figure out how to work the remote control, or she couldn't remember how to turn on the television, we could figure that out. If she hid her purse because her paranoid brain thought people were breaking in the house to steal it, I could get neighbors and friends to help. When she didn't know how much insulin to take with meals, or if she'd even eaten at all, life management became critical. We tried home health, I tried private nursing, but it just wasn't working. And after numerous hospital stays, I made the difficult decision to move my mom into memory care in Houston, close to me. It was the hardest and best thing I've ever done in my life. But finally, my mom was well cared for, and most importantly, she was safe. During that time, I really found myself in a world where my type A skills were just useless. Planning, strategy, goal setting, control, didn't matter. My life was ruled by instinct and intuition. I had to listen to my gut and make decisions every day. I listened to doctors. I considered what I thought my mom would want. And I just did my best to honor her and do for her exactly what I thought she would do for me. I was really fortunate that during that time, my mom never forgot who I was, and she never really lost her speech. She certainly struggled with words, and even reality at times, but there were many lucid days. We would talk about the blessings that we still had and that we had each other, and we found joy. In fact, it became my #1 priority to help my mom find joy every day. I had a tradition in my family of, at the holidays, of going around the table and everyone saying something they're thankful for. So the last Christmas we were together, we were sitting at the dinner table, Mom was to my right. So I started to my left, we ran around the table, people sharing. We got to my mom, and I intentionally skipped over her. I didn't want her to feel self-conscious or be embarrassed. And she said, "Wait a minute, I have something to share." I said, "Sure, Mom, what would you like to say?" And she reached over and patted me on the arm, and she said, "I'd just like to thank my, I like to thank my person for taking such good care of me." And I realized in that moment how perfect her wrong word was, because I was her person and she was mine. 4 months later, I received a call from my mom's physician who had stopped by to visit her, check on her. My mom was not doing well. She was declining, and the doctor thought it was time to call hospice. Well, those were not the words I was prepared to hear. Certainly didn't expect it. It was quick. But we moved my mom to hospice that day, and I knew her end was near. Over the next few days, she weakened and wasn't responsive. And on Wednesday, as I was leaving to go home to change clothes, take a shower, and come back, I leaned down to my mom, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "I just want you to know I love you so much." And for the first time since she'd arrived in hospice, she spoke and said, "I love you too." Little was I to know those would be the last words my mom ever spoke to me. She died the next day. Following her death, I felt so empty. My role as caregiver and son were just gone. I didn't know what to do next. I'd lost my purpose until September 26, 2017, that night at a dinner party when I received a text message from my boss. At that dinner, I totally and completely trusted my gut. My inner voice was screaming, "Act, do something different." So I took a risk that most people can't take. I get that most of you in this room can't quit your job or your husband as much as you may want to, or your wife, or your kids, or your mortgage. And you shouldn't. But you can listen to your gut, your inner screaming voice, and you can act. In fact, I believe you must. Dig deep for whatever action you need to take, and take it. Do it responsibly and with careful planning, which is exactly what I did. In just a few short months, my inner screaming voice, I tried to muzzle it, and I couldn't. I became more and more less effective, not very type A. In fact, felt like my type A self was just shattered. There was nothing left. So I knew it was time for me to stop. I had to listen, and I had to act. So when I made the decision to quit my job, I considered the past few years, all that I'd been through with my mom, and I made a commitment to myself and to her to live every day with these 4 principles in mind. Life rule number 1, say yes to opportunity. In my life, my tendency is to stay in the comfort zone of my close, tight-knit circle of friends. I would much rather stay at home on my couch with my cats, Jack and Dom, than go to a party. Last year, I read the book Year of Yes that was written by an TV exec who learned by saying yes to playtime with their children every time they asked. A new world opened to her that put balance in her life. Yes to life for her was more important than yes to work. So I made a commitment to say yes. In fact, I was much more comfortable preparing for this day and this talk than I am standing here on this stage, but I said yes to SMPS. As a result, the opportunities, the new relationships, the experiences that have come simply from saying yes are changing my life, literally getting me off that couch. Life rule number 2, be present in the moment. As a former type A, I have spent my entire life looking back, looking forward. I am always analyzing, figuring out what I did wrong so I don't make the same mistake. Or I'm looking forward, adding to my ever-growing to-do list or working on the next spreadsheet. Planning. It's what I do, I plan. But I've made a conscious effort to stop that, to quit looking back and quit looking forward and be present. Earlier this year, I had the good fortune of traveling to Asia, where I spent a day with Buddhist monks. I learned to center myself and feel what presence is really all about. Right now, as nervous as I am, I'm in this moment. I'm excited and mostly anxious, but I'm feeling it for what it's worth. You know, it's really easy to be present in the moment when the moment's good. It's really hard to be present in the moment when the moment sucks. Rule number 3, choose the uncomfortable. My mom was raised in a house where taking risks was frowned upon. And I know that if she had a do-over, she would have done some things differently. So I promised her that I would break that cycle and seek out things that put me in positions where I get sweaty from anxiety and I physically don't know how I'm going to get through. In Asia, I visited a tarantula farm. Now, I don't know about you, but spiders are low on my list of things I choose to encounter. So at this tarantula farm, this farmer, this little Cambodian lady with this really long stick, took us out into the woods and stuck her walking stick into the dirt, into a hole, popped it up, reached down, and picked up a tarantula. Big as my hand tarantula, right? She takes some shears off her belt, cuts off its fangs, turns to us and said, "Who wants to hold it?" I do. As you can see, then we walked back to her shop, where she took this guy and a bunch of his buddies, fried them up, and said, "Who wants to eat one?" I do. Eat that spider. But you know, I did it. I ate a spider, and I didn't die. I may have passed out, but I don't remember it. Most importantly, I didn't scream, which I realize now is probably only because I had a spider in my mouth. In preparing for today, I decided that I have to walk my talk. I am deathly afraid of sharks. A lot of you in this room know that that's my phobia and send me Facebook messages all the time with sharks, thanks. But just a few weeks ago, I booked a flight to Belize. I chartered a boat, and I swam with sharks. 8 or 10 6-foot sharks. It was horrific. What made me think I could do this? I mean, I'm in the ocean, literally in the water, sweating. Think about it. I mean, I was terrified. I saw my life flash before me. That makes me nervous still. But you know, I confronted my biggest fear. What can stop me now? And finally, I made a commitment to life rule number 4, love the journey. As I look back to that dinner, that text, that moment, so many months ago when I started this incredible journey, I say to you, Rome, wherever you are in your journey, listen to your gut and act. And when you do, I give you permission and invite you to join me off track on purpose.